All right, we're back. We are COMP397, and it's the winter 2018 semester, and we are week 2, part 1 of our broadcast. We're going to be talking about mostly labels and buttons and some package management today. That's what we're talking about. I'm also going to update you. Go ahead. I'm also going to update you on your stuff that's due tonight. So tonight, before we begin, we know we have our contract that's due tonight. That's number 1. So please remember that that's due by midnight tonight, your contract. Just going to get rid of some of this stuff so that way I can launch it again in a second. And also to note, if I look at the groups right now, we have, this is the state of the groups, right? There are 25 groups up on eCentennial. Please go up on the group and, or on eCentennial, pick your group if it's not already picked. For example, don't pick group 6. It's already 4 people inside of there, right? Pick another group if you haven't done it already, right? Some other group that has 0 members. And then enroll. You can self-enroll your team, right? You can enroll in the group. Later on, what I want you to do is come to me during break and tell me what the group name is, and I'll modify the name so that it's the proper name for your group. The only way you can submit your contract tonight is if you have, or you're part of a group. If you're not part of a group, you will not be able to submit your contract tonight. All right, so you must be part of a group. Is anyone here from last week or that didn't come last week? Okay, so we have 2 people that can come. It's another person there. And obviously, you're not part of a group, right? Is there anyone else that's not part of a group right now? Okay, so we're going to have to find you a group. During break, we'll have to do that. There are people here that are also, or that have joined COMP397 that are physically not here today for whatever reason. And I'll tell you that that's not a good practice, guys, because there's so much to cover. You're going to have questions, and you need to come to class. It's 3:30 to 6:30. There's 2 sections, 12:30 to 3:30 and 3:30 to 6:30. I broadcast the second class. So this class here, 3:30 to 6:30, I'm currently broadcasting live on YouTube, right? You also have to be part of a Slack channel, and I have a Slack channel for right now. If you don't know where to go, for the new people, go to slack.com. I'm going to show you where to go. Please do this now with me, or else we're going to have problems later. So go to Slack. Actually, let me do an incognito window, which might be a little bit closer to what it should be like. So here's my incognito. So slack.com, right? So what I want to do is you're going to look for your workspace, find your workspace, click up here, right? And under Find Your Workspace on the top, you're going to go to Find Your Slack Workspace. So again, if you missed that, find your workspace up here. And then click on Find Your Slack Workspace down here. You're going to put in the email address for Centennial. So mine would be my.centennialcollege.ca. You have to use a my.centennialcollege.ca email address, and then you can self-enroll. Please do this now. Don't watch me, right? If you don't do this, you're going to miss out on communications, right? So if you haven't had a chance to do this already, go to this thing and connect to Slack. You're going to look for the Slack workspace that's called COMP397. So COMP397-W2017. It was a mistake last week, but I kept it, right? And however, I've renamed the workspace so it says W2018 here. But the URL is W2017. So this is the URL, COMP397-W2017.slack.com. That's what you're joining, okay? So please do that with me now. There's 43 people currently enrolled in the group, right? I fully expect that there's still people missing after this. People still don't follow instructions, and they haven't joined my Slack group, all right? Worst case scenario, if you can't join for whatever reason, contact me, and I will send you an invite, okay? If you can do it somehow. So people who are watching remotely right now who cannot attend physically or who are not able to join Slack, please contact me via email, and I will send you out an invite. Okay, you need to use your my.centennialcollege.ca email address. Okay, so on Slack, we talked about last week that there is group forming. You're going to form a group, and we also talked about the project. If you look up online on eCentennial, I have my Dropbox. Here's the Dropbox. And in the Dropbox, you have all the projects, all the project components pretty much that are listed. So please take a look, be careful, and look at these dates. So tonight, being February 3rd, by midnight, you have your team contract that's due, which means you must be part of a team, A. And you must, kind of fill out the team contract with your team, okay, and submit it. There's two things I need with that team contract: the team contract document and an example of your logo. Okay, those are the two things I need. Your logo is just a very simple image. Doesn't have to be beautiful unless you have Ashley on your team or some other artist, right? Then you have to make it beautiful. Sorry. No, I'm joking. Any logo that looks fairly nice, that's representative of your team is okay. Please don't use a logo that's from the web. Don't steal Apple's logo or Microsoft or something and call it your own. That's not acceptable. Make it very simple. It could be a shape like a triangle or a hexagon or something with a couple of initials. That's okay, right? But you need to have something that represents your team, all right? Hopefully it's nicer than that, but it's up to you. If you don't have an artist, even initials are good. Yeah. In eCentennial, in Dropbox, if you've enrolled properly, you should see most of these things already. Okay, I'll have to look at that later for you. I'm not sure why. Does anyone else have that problem? Can you guys see your Dropbox? Yes. I can't see Dropbox. Oh? That's not normal because it should be under Web Combined. If you click on Dropbox, right? I haven't done anything different. You guys should see it. And if I go to your grades, I should see everybody here. There should be. I'm gonna go here, and there should be quite a few people. And what's your last name? So I see you, right? That's you, Alexi. So you're part of the group. So you should be able to see it like everyone else. So I'll check you later. All right. So so both teams, both sections, the first section and the second section, you should be able to see the Dropboxes. If you can't, please see me during the break, and we'll make it so that you can. Okay. So you should see a list of dates. February 3rd tonight by midnight is the team contract. Next week, please keep in mind that there's the game pitch and game design document, right? Now, the game design document has to be very high level. All I'm looking for next week is just fill in the relevant parts. So, for example, I need your logo. If there's an area that says, talks about your table of contents and what your game about and all that kind of stuff, it's very high level. Remember, you're really doing your game pitch next week, and your game design document should be pretty much what you've said in your game pitch. So let's take a look at that. I didn't have a chance to do that with the previous team, but hopefully some of them are watching. I put some documents up on under content. Can you see content, Alexi? Under content, under week 1, I should have game pitches, the final project overview, and your contract template, as well as an external game document, yeah? So under the external game document, please look there. The external game document looks like this, right? This is due next week. So notice that there is a team company name and the logo, right? This is why I'm getting you to do it this week, so you're ready for next week. Then there's the title of the document. This title of the document should be the name of your game, right? And there's anything in square brackets, please replace, this is just placeholder. Please replace the square brackets with something that makes sense for you, okay? Then there's the version. Obviously, your version is going to be 1.01. Please change the date from 2012 to the current date, 2018. The authors' names, put all the authors of your group in here. So all your group members in here. It's not May 16th, 2012. You can see that I've had this document for quite a long time. Your table of contents, all it needs is like the list of your pages. You can use Word for that to install a table of contents. There's in here your version history. All I need is a link to your GitHub for now. A link to your GitHub, whatever GitHub account you're going to be using to store all your documents, all your project. Your project link should be here for GitHub, okay? And then some basic things. Game overview. What's your game about? What's your gameplay mechanics? Your camera is going to be a 2D camera from somewhere that you're going to be using. Controls. How are you going to use your controls? Is it WASD? What are you going to be doing? You're not going to probably have saving and loading, so you probably can leave this section out. And if there's a section that doesn't make sense for you, just take it out. Delete it. Don't leave it in here like this. Interface sketch. That's your wireframe. Make a little sketch of what your level is going to look like. Only sketch out your first level for now. Okay? That's all I'm looking for. What is your level going to look like? Right? If you're going to have a menu screen, if you've got that, kind of put in a little, kind of a sketch of your menu. If you're going to have a menu, what does it look like? Don't do any screenshots because you don't have anything to show me right now. Okay? I don't need high fidelity artwork. I just need wireframes, like literally just lines that have arrows that point to what it's going to look like. You don't have a game at this point, right? Your game world, describe it if it makes sense. Levels, you're only going to have one level, but if you wanted to have more than one, you could describe each of the levels, right? Game progression, how do you progress from one level to the other? Characters, if you have any. Non-player characters, if you're going to have any. I don't recommend it. Enemies, what kind of enemies are going to be around? Weapons, what are your weapons going to look like? Any kind of items in the game, abilities. Go through this thing. It's not that difficult to figure out. Scoring, puzzles, and mini games. I don't recommend puzzles and mini games at all for this semester. Cheat codes, sound index. Name all your sound files. You don't have them right now, so you can leave this blank, but leave it in. Story index. You can talk about what your story is going to be about. Art multimedia index. If you have any artwork you're going to use, this is where you put it in a table, right? Any design notes, any future features, and that's what your game design document's about. That's due next week, not this week, next week. And that's going to help you do your game pitch. Remember last week we did a game pitch, and I also talked last week about the requirements for your game pitch. They're up on Dropbox, and if they're not, like I said, I will show you them. So here's your game pitch. For next week, this is due next week by midnight. Next week, what I'm looking for is for you to come up and do a little presentation with your team, right? So you're going to have some slides. Look at the slides that are required. Your title slide, your roles, influences, your game overview, your MDA. What's the MDA? I talked about it last week. What's MDA? Mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. I did a little presentation about that last week, right? Mechanics are the rules of the game. Dynamics are how you play the game. In other words, like your strategy. What strategies do you allow players to have? And aesthetics is how the look and feel is of the game. What's the look and feel? Is it a retro shooter? What is it like? Then one slide for your planning. This is all up on your Dropbox, and it's the exact same stuff I've put inside of your project document. If you look at your project document inside last week's content, week 1, your project document, all this information is there too. All right, so you don't have, I've just duplicated it here. So you need two things. You need your presentation file for next week and your game design document. Remember, only one of you need to present. I don't need all of you presenting, but all of you have to be physically here to get the mark. So if somebody's not here during the presentation, right? An example of this is if you're working with somebody from section 1, you need to be either there or they have to be here. But you have to be together for next week. And every time you do a presentation, you need to be together, right? Even though you're attending different times, or maybe you're watching things remotely sometimes, that's okay. But when it comes to crunch time, right, production weeks, you physically need to be here. Only one person needs to do the presentation if you choose to, or you can work with somebody else. And here's how it would work. Okay, Alexa, come up with me, right? So we would do it like this. Now you guys can't see this, but the morning people saw it. Stand over there, right? Oh, no, over here. So, hi, my name is Tom. This is how we do it. And this is Alexi. And I'm your game designer. And Alexi, you are?
I'm a manager.
Producer. He's the producer, right?
Yeah.
And today we're talking about our fantastic game called Fantastic Game, right? Whatever the game is going to be. It's fantastic. This is what our game is. And then you don't have to even talk too much if you don't want to. But if you wanted to talk about fantastic games,
well, a great idea represents the imaging world to cover.
There we go. So he's going to start covering
characters with the strange features.
Awesome. Sit down now. Good.
You can become one of the strange.
So if you see what I'm doing, we go up together. Or if Alexi, let's say Alexi wasn't going to talk at all, he wouldn't have to be there. But maybe he's going to control the PowerPoints. All of you must take part somehow. Like, be involved. Be here because this is your group, right? Remember that the contract that you're handing in today talks about how to form your group up, right? And that talks about the rules of how are you going to govern your group. Look at that contract and get rid of all the yellow marks. All the yellow highlights are just talking about things that I recommend. You can change all that. Anything that's in yellow, change it around to make sure that it meets your group's requirements, right? But one of the areas that are in your groups that we talked about was the idea that if you're not productive, you're going to get flagged, right? Here's a great example of this. There's a lot of people missing today. Like, we have 40-something people. Some of them were in the first section, but there's a lot of people that are not here today for whatever reason, right? Today is a meeting day, right, for you guys. I mean, it's up to you. You may choose, not to come to class. That's up to you. It's just not going to be good for you. You can watch things remotely. I'm giving you the choice when I broadcast live, like I'm doing now, to watch it remotely. If you can't make it to class because you have other obligations, something came up, whatever, that's up to you. Highly don't recommend it. I think you should come to class anyway, right? And use the broadcast and as a last resort, and for extra information, so that way, just in case you miss something, because I'm going to go fairly fast, you can always go back to the broadcast, and the video, and then say, oh, look, he's talked about this, and this is how you do it. I can't remember how to install X, whatever it is. Here's how he did it, right? It's a recording of what I'm doing physically in class. So please do that. So that's what's due next week, and you know what's due tonight? Yes.
Do you have any advice about any website research? Because my main concern about the games, it's further on concern, is about artificial intelligence behind the
enemies,
the CPU movements.
Okay. So the question is, because they can't hear you, I'm gonna restate your question. So the question is, do I have any advice about websites that can help you with artificial intelligence? Yeah, for enemy movements, I'm guessing, right? And the answer is, you don't need an artificial intelligence for your enemy movements. The artificial intelligence will be very, very limited, right? Only because we don't have any time for complex AI, right? Even pathfinding would be probably out of scope of this course, right? But I'm going to help you out with it. So it really depends on the type of game you're making. You can make repetitive patterns for your AI for now. So they move up and down, they move left and right. They have some kind of pathway that they take, as an example. But they don't have to be smart, right? The smarter you make your AI, the longer it's going to take to code your game. And remember that what you're producing this semester may not be the most polished game in the world, right? You're going to make a prototype. That's what you're making, right? So it may not be fully fleshed out because we don't have the time for that. But you're going to make a game that is functional and it has some fun. That's what I'm looking for today, for our game, right? For you to make a real crazy game that's awesome and that has artificial intelligence behind it, we could do it, but it would take probably more time than we have. So I'm going to talk about some of the stuff you're asking, and I can give you some examples, but I don't recommend you even go there. I think it's the wrong direction, right? Don't make your enemies too smart, is what I'm saying. Otherwise, it's going to take too long for you, right? And we'll talk about that after. If you want to see me after, we can talk more in detail about that. So anyway, so there's two things. So one due tonight is the team contract. Next week is going to be the game pitch. So please remember that the game pitch is due. It's going to be based on your teams. So I'm going to call you up, whatever teams are ready in order. And I'm going to say, okay, you're going, you're on. And then you're going to come up. You're going to take 10 minutes and you're going to present your game, right? Your idea. You haven't made your game. It's just a pitch, okay? Because the next week, I don't expect any code. Next week, I just expect the idea to be together. You have your team this week. Next week is your idea. That's it. So that's really your schedule for the next couple of weeks. And if you look up online, you can also see in your Dropbox, hopefully you can see this in your Dropbox. Some of you can't for whatever reason. Your first playable is due the February the 24th. Your alpha is going to be March 17th. Your beta is going to be April 7th. And your final release is going to be April 21st. Okay, that's the schedule, right? We're also planning to have a midterm test March 24th, okay? The midterm test is going to be individual. So you need to know how to do Create.js, Visual Studio Code, TypeScript, all the stuff I talked about last week. You need to understand how to do it because I'm going to give you a project and you're going to have to produce something in a single day by yourself. It won't be too complex. It'll be something very straightforward. But you're going to have to do it with Visual Studio Code and TypeScript. On that, that's the technology. I've got a couple of emails that ask me, can I do some other technology? Some person said, can I make my game in Java? The answer is no. Cannot make your game in Java. Cannot make your game in C# and Unity. Some say, can I make a Unity game? That's not what we're doing here. We're not making Unity games. You have to use TypeScript and JavaScript. You must make use of the Create.js library only. And the reason why I'm doing that is because if I made you do any library you wanted, there's two things. Less control for me. I don't know if you actually did it. Maybe you got it from somewhere else, right? Secondly, I can't help you with it because I'm not going to train you on other libraries, like, for example, Phaser or P5 or some other library. I'm not going to do that. All I'm going to be doing is focusing on Create.js, and your test will be on Create.js, Visual Studio Code, and TypeScript. All right? So it makes more sense. It'll be a practical test, something you have to build March 24th. It's coming. All right? So you need to do it. You have to understand how to do it. You have to have practice doing it. I recommend you do it regularly and come to class. It's up to you, though. You're paying me to push you. That's why I'm here. I'm your coach. I'm going to work you out, just like if we're in a gym. My job is to make your muscles stronger when it comes to TypeScript and JavaScript and games. That's my job, right? And I'm not going to be easy. I'm going to try and push you to be better. Easy doesn't mean better. It means maybe not too good. It's easy, right? I'm not saying I want to make it difficult. I just mean I want to push you to improve, right? And otherwise, you're not going to get your money's worth. If you ask me to do a web game and I just get you to do Unity, yeah, okay, you know how to do it. But that's not the point here. The point is you need to do something new that you've never done before, right? So that you get stronger. And after this course, you're going to have good knowledge of TypeScript, which can be used in other web application development applications, as well as command line, Visual Studio Code, a bunch of other smaller technologies. You'll be better off for it. All right, so that's the way. So don't fight me, embrace it, okay? If you fight me, if you resist, it's just going to make it more difficult for yourself. You need to know this stuff. This is part of this course, so that's what we're doing. Any questions around the course? I just want to do the administration part first. Yes?
For the team contract, is one submission okay, or every person?
One, as long as you're part of a group and you're signed up in a group, only one person in the group needs to submit. It's automatically. Once you submit as a group, then everyone submits. Okay? Any other questions around the administration piece? So for the one person that doesn't have a team, we're going to have to get you a team during break, hopefully. Anyone else have any other problems? Okay, let's get going. So today we're going to be talking about labels and buttons, how to do those things, making a basic UI. I'm going to make some assumptions. I'm going to assume that you were here last week, right? Which means that you have some basic things installed. I'm going to assume that in command line, you can do the following things. I'm just going to go here and stop this job. You can do the following things. I'm using a PC this week. Last week I used a Mac. But I want to assume that you have this. You can do git -- version in your command line. Okay, if you can't do git -- version in your command line, that means Git is not installed properly on your machine. If you're getting unrecognized command, right, that means it's not installed properly. And to fix that, you can go to git-scm.com. I put this link on Slack already, and download and install the latest version of GitHub, or Git, I mean. Okay, that's the first thing. Next, you need to have Node working. Last week I installed Node.js, so we're going to use that as a package manager. Node -v. You must have a version of Node 9.4 or up. I think last week they updated to 9.5. That's how it goes in the web. Every week or every other week, something changes, right? So now we're at 9.5, but this is 9.4 that I'm using, okay? You must be able to do this. You must have TypeScript installed. In order for you to install TypeScript, right? Because we're going to be using TypeScript, you need to do one of these, npm install TypeScript -g, right? That's the installation for TypeScript. And when you do that, it's tsc -v. If you can do a tsc -v, and TypeScript updated too. It's at 2.7.1 now. It used to be last week, it was at 2.6. You must have these three things installed. You must have Visual Studio Code if you're following me. However, if you don't have Visual Studio Code, that's this editor right here, Visual Studio Code. And that you can get that from Visual Studio Code. Here it is, .com. Not Visual Studio. That's Visual Studio. Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio is not good. Code.visualstudio.com. That's where you want. Visual Studio you can use too, and you can also use brackets, Atom, some other editor if you really want to. And I think that one of the ones that are really great is WebStorm. But I'm not going to cover WebStorm or Visual Studio or brackets or Atom or Sublime Text or one of those other text editors. That's on you. And one thing that I like Visual Studio Code for is it automatically transpiles, which we talked about last week, right? Whereas some other editor, I don't know if it's going to work right or not, right? So that's Visual Studio Code. These are the assumptions that I'm going to make from last week. That you have all these tools. We did tool installation last week, so watch those videos if you don't remember or don't know how to do it. All right, so that's number one, Visual Studio Code. So these things, Git, Node, TypeScript, we did last week. And we also put some stuff up on GitHub. Does anyone not have GitHub or not signed up to GitHub? Do you have GitHub? Good. So please, if you haven't had a chance to sign up for GitHub, the GitHub we're using, GitHub repo we're using is Centennial College, right? So please look at github.com/Centennial College. I have also that up on Slack. So if you look on Slack, when you sign up for Slack, there's a bunch of links and information I've already put in here, right? So again, I'm using the general channel for all my links and information. And further down, I also included things like the final project, the contract template. It's right here on Slack as well. Game pitches, which is a little presentation I did about what I'm looking for from a game pitch, right? And a bunch of other links that I included last week, including my YouTube channel, which is what you're watching right now. And there's some new things from today. We're going to talk about Yarn today, right? Also, someone came up with this thing where they tried to use GitHub, but it asked them to put in their global username and email address, and I put a link for that up here too, okay, or a little bit of a thing. I'm also going to be using 7-zip to unzip my files. I'm not going to be using RAR or some other form of compression. I'm using 7-zip, okay? So please download and install 7-zip. It makes it easy for you. I'm going to try and limit the installations, but every week you should expect at least one. Just telling you. It's the way it is. So that's GitHub. And I want to start with this. So I want you to go to last week's GitHub. Do it with me, please. Go up to github.com/Centennial College and download and install Lesson 1B. Now, Lesson 1B you should already have because you did it with me last week. But I want you to do this anyway. And I want you to I'll tell you why. I want you to make copies. We're going to leave 1B there for you if you worked with me on it last week. And we're going to make a brand new lesson this week, 2B, because you guys are the B team. The A team happened in the morning. So let's go to Lesson 1B, right? So again, the way you find that is you go to github.com/Centennial College, and then you're going to see COMP397 W2018 Lesson 1B. Go there. I'll give you a sec while I grab water. If you can't see it, it's www.github.com or just try and put in github.com Centennial College. The link is also on Slack. Please look at Slack. The link is there for your Centennial College, and then from there you can see the other ones. I'm just going to drink a little bit of water while you guys are doing that. Otherwise, I'm going to die. Talking nonstop. Okay, hopefully you've gone there now. Now there's two ways to get this repository. One way to get the repository, you got it? You're going to go 1B from last week. So there's two ways to get this repository. One way to get the repository is you're going to go to here, the green button. You could click on download. If you click download, it'll just give you a package with no commits. Okay, recap from last week. What are commits? What's a commit? You guys are talking about Git? Tell me what a commit is. Come on. It's a what? Freeze of changes. Okay.
Save point.
Save point. Like saving? Okay, kind of like saving. Something like that. Anyone else have an idea of what a commit is? Can anyone put it into?
Like a snapshot.
Ah, that's the perfect thing, even though you weren't here last week. Snapshot, right? It's a snapshot, right? So that's what it is. It's a snapshot of your current file. I like the freeze of changes because really what it does is it takes a look at your files, the state of your application at that particular moment in time, and it freezes it. It kind of says, hey, this is what this commit is, like a snapshot of what the application was like at that moment in time, right? So I have 3 commits here, right? I have the first commit. If I click on the commits up here on GitHub, right? Let's do it together. I'm clicking on the commits. And if I do that, I have 3 commits. One that's called initial commit, another one that's added NPM support, and the third one is added TypeScript and Create.js support. Okay? So these are 3 commits, and the messages here are commit messages. They're the snapshot message. They're the message that's oriented or associated with that particular snapshot. Okay? So it's just a short description of what it is. Please don't put in really ugly, useless commit messages. Don't put in ABCD. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. You need to make commit messages that make sense. So you have your initial commit, and then anything else you're going to do your project. Okay? All right, so we're going to do that. We're not going to need the commits from last week because I want to create a project based on last week's project. So I'm going to go to 1B. And I'm going to, please do this with me. And I'm going to click on click or download. And I'm going to click on this download zip. Please do that with me.
And when we're checking the installation that we did, we never check COMP397. Then it's supposed to be something we verify.
Don't you worry. I'll talk about Create.js in a second. So grab this download, this zip file, okay? I've already done it, but I'm probably going to have a second copy now. And when you download this, I'm going to right click and I'm going to extract, right, to my COMP397 W2018 lesson 1B folder, right, which is going to give me a folder that looks like, if I have it in order, hopefully I will, and if not, then I'll make another one. And of course, it's not here. I'll just do it again. So yeah, so I'll go to that zip file and I'll look at the date modified. And you can see at the top, I've got this date here. I'm going to just extract it. So I'm going to go to 7-zip extract to this, right? And I'm going to see that that file is now here, my folder. Here it is. Right? And notice that's inside that folder, there's another one called COMP397 W2018 Lesson 1B Master, right? I only care about this one, the one that says this folder here. So I'm going to copy this whole folder. Now, I don't want a folder within a folder here. I just want the master folder that's the one level. Copy it. I'm going to go to my desktop, right? Here's my desktop. And I'm going to paste it. Hopefully it worked. And if it didn't work, then we'll be in trouble. There it is. I just have to press Control V a little bit harder. Okay, this is my folder, right? My folder that came from last week. COMP397, W2018, Lesson 1B, Master. Okay, the reason why it says Master is because it's the master branch. I want to change the name of this thing from 1B to 2B, right? Because we're the B team. And take away the master. So 2B is my project name now. I have one from this morning called 2A. I'm not going to use that one. I've already done this work, right? So I'm putting it aside. I want this one called 2B. Or not to be. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to take my Visual Studio Code now. Here's my Visual Studio Code. And even if whether something is inside of it or not, I want you to take one or the new folder I made, 2B, and drag and drop it into Visual Studio, please. Which is going to create a reference to the new folder structure. It should look like this on the left. This is what you should have now. We're going to build it up. So again, we want to make a label. I want to make a label class with you this week, and I want to make a button class this week. That works. Because with labels and buttons, we can make a user interface, right? I can make a menu, right? And it'll also give you some kind of information about how to make classes, how to make namespaces, modules, how to transpile, how to do all those things we did last week again. Let's go over the project from last week, okay? I want to put this up on GitHub, right? So I need to make one change. I want to go to my package.json file. Under my package.json file, it has the old name, COMP397, W2018, Lesson 1B. I want to change this to 2B. So please change that. Also, this URL is going to be wrong. It's going to be okay for me, but this repository URL on line 11 of package.json is going to be wrong. It's got to be changed to your GitHub account, right? So this is okay for me. I'm going to just change it to 2B. But for you, either you just wipe it out, so clean it up, because it's not going to work for you, because that's not going to be your repository, or change it to what it's going to be called, what yours is going to be called. All right, cool. Now there's two ways to get to the terminal. In order for me to put this up on GitHub, I need two ways to do it. I could do it right here in Visual Studio Code. So if I go to Visual Studio Code and I click down here, I have this button clicked here first, guys. Take a look. I can click down here, right click, and click on Open in Terminal, which will open it right in here. That's one way of doing it. I'm not going to do it this way because it's kind of small to see. I'm going to put it somewhere else. The other way to do it is to actually make a new command prompt. So I'm going to go back into Windows, just do Command, CMD, press Enter. And then I'm going to change directory. So I'm going to put CD space and drag and drop my folder onto my command line and press Enter. So please do it one of those two ways, but you need to have a command line open at this time. Okay, help me out. I want to make a new Git repository. How do I do it? What's the command to make my new Git repository? Git init, right? So Git init. I went over this last week. So I have a little video on it. Please take a look last week on how to do this. Git init. I press Enter and it tells me I initialized an empty Git repository. Okay. Okay, I want to add all my files to the staging area. What's the next command? Git add dot. Good. You will be asked, this will be on your test, eh? Git add dot. Midterm test, March 24th. I'm going to ask you some Git commands. What are the 3 reasons that I use Git? Does anyone remember? I know I ask this every single semester. Collaboration, what else? Source control or version control. Yeah, what else? A really key one. Backup, right? Without backup, my dog ate my homework. It's going to happen, right? My dog can eat my laptop, throw it in the snow, maybe, pee on it, right? And then my laptop won't work anymore. And guess what's going to happen? I'm not going to have any files. My program is going to be gone, and I'm going to cry. And then if I come to class and tell Tom, my dog ate my laptop, peed on it, and now I don't have access to my files, I'm not going to cry for you because I'm going to say you could have put it on GitHub, right? I don't care if your dog ate and peed on your laptop, right? Okay, so that's the second part. So git add dot. Now I want to make my commit. What's the next command to make my commit complete? How do I make my commit now? Well, you need to do git commit, right? Git commit minus M for message. That's what it stands for. And the name of your commit. Now there's two names for your commit. It could be initial commit or first commit. Those are the two conventions you can use. So I'm going to use initial commit. Press enter. Now at this point, we're good, but my machine is, all my files are locked into my machine. That means if my dog actually does what I'm telling it, what I'm saying is going to happen, I still lost everything. I'm not connected to GitHub. GitHub is a cloud service. I need to connect to GitHub. In order for me to do that, I need to have a repository on GitHub first. Let's do that together. I'm making a brand new repository. Here we are. I'm in GitHub. This is the way I want you to create it. Go to your GitHub account and click this plus button. Make a new repository. And then make sure you name it properly. Make sure you name it whatever the repository is called. So I want to call mine COMP397 W2018 -lesson2b. Now you can't make the repository the same name. You have to make it a different name every time. But you and I can share the same repository name. If I called on my repository, if I called it COMP397 W2018 lesson2b and you did the same thing, it's not going to complain because you and I have different repositories or accounts, I should say. Okay, click on create repository now. This one. So I'm not making any changes. Cool. Well, I'm not done yet. I made my local repository, right? I did it locally. I have my remote repository, but they're not connected. The way to connect it is these last two lines of code right here. These last two lines. So I'm going to copy these last two lines. Copy. So commit git remote add origin. Get these last two lines. And git push -u origin master. I'm going to copy them and go to the command prompt and right click if you're a PC. And then press enter. And if you, it might ask you at this point to log in, like for your the email address of your GitHub account and your password, and it'll only do that one time. Once it does it one time, it'll always remember. It might also ask you, because we had a question this morning, this morning class, which is, hey, it asked me for my username and my email, and you may have to configure Git by doing it right here. I put it up on Slack. You may have to do a global configuration where you say git config -- global. My username is whatever it is, and git.config -- global. My user.email is whatever your email is. It might ask you for that. And if it does, just put in these two commands. I put them up on GitHub. Slack. It's on Slack for you. Otherwise, I put my stuff on GitHub already. And if you want to take a look, if I refresh, you can see now that I have one commit called initial commit, and all my new project, W2018 lesson2b, is up on GitHub. This is where I'm going to be storing my files as we go. Please, if I'm going too fast, and if you need for me to show my files, or you can't see my files, ask me to push, and I'll push it up on GitHub for you. All right, are you with me? That's a good question. Yeah, you're nodding your head. You're already with me? Great.
It's still connected to the old project. Does it, every time I try to init, it just reinitializes to the
that means that your project is within your other project somehow, or you have a main a hidden .git folder somewhere in your root, the root of your files and folders, and it's going to screw you up, Ash, later on. We have to fix that. During the break, I'll come and check it out. All right, so you can see that I have my files, and remember last week we talked about how we're using TypeScript, right, to transpile from TypeScript to JavaScript, right? And we talked about how it's easier because JavaScript can be quite complex. So if I go to typescriptlang.org, we talked about how I'm using TypeScript now. Right, here's TypeScript. And even though it says the latest version is 2.6, it's actually 2.7. And what this is it's a superset of JavaScript that makes it easier for us to use. And I gave an example last week of a playground where we created a class. Please refer to the videos last week. But the reason why we're doing it is because we want faster development. That's why we're using TypeScript. We're also going to use a library called create.js. It's a suite of libraries, right, that include easeljs, tween.js, sound.js, and preload.js. We're going to be using this to build out our game, right? And I've been doing this for several years now. It's a pretty reliable library. It's stable, and it's made by the Grant Skinner, which is one of the guys who worked on Adobe. And he was one of the guys that actually exported or created an export from Adobe Flash at the time into JavaScript. And they needed a library to do that, so they created create.js for that. So if you think that, if it seems familiar to you, if create.js is very Flash-like, it's because it is. That's where it came from, right? So if you know Flash and ActionScript, then create.js is for you. You can really learn it quickly, right? So this is the library we're going to be using. So again, some assumptions. We have this file and folder structure. We did use this tsconfig.json, and the tsconfig.json is a configuration file that basically talks about how to transpile between TypeScript and JavaScript. That's what it does. Let's take a look at the rest of our file structure, right? Our folder structure. We have everything that's linked into my index.html. So my index.html is our manifest that all the files and folders link to. It's also where everything is happening for our game. Our game is going to live inside of this canvas element right here on line 12. So take a look. Please go to the project so you can see what I'm talking about. If I can make this a little bigger for you. And you can see that the canvas element on line 12 is where my game is going to live. Notice I've just made it so that the game is going to be 640 by 480. That's what I've done. Last week, we linked to this CDN, all right, to make create.js work. We use the CDN. The CDN stands for the Content Delivery Network. And it's a network of servers out there that serve up a very common JavaScript libraries, like, for example, jQuery or Bootstrap, right? Now, we used it last week to get it going, but we're not going to use it this week. I'm going to replace this with local copies of the create.js library, right? Because we're developers, and we're going to be working locally, a lot of times maybe even offline, right? So we're going to make local copies. So that's one of the things we're going to change. We're not going to do it yet. We're using our package.json file as a dependency manager. It's going to keep track of all of our dependencies here, as well as in a new package manager I'm going to be using in a second. My content folder has my game.css, which is very simple. It's a very simple CSS file that just puts a border around my canvas. And inside my scripts folder, I have my core folder, which has a couple of files. My game.ts file, which is where my game is going to be built out, right? And I'm seeing some errors, and I'll tell you why in a second. My game.js, which is the JavaScript file that's been transpiled from the game.ts file. So it starts off as TypeScript, and we convert it into JavaScript. And the reason why we do it is because TypeScript uses the latest versions, a most modern version of JavaScript, 2016, 2017, 2018, and we transpile it into an older version of JavaScript that's compatible across all browsers, right? So that's our core folder. We have a Git Ignore file that ignores anything that's inside the node modules folder. We don't have any node modules now, but eventually we will. And notice that this will not, anything in the node modules folder will not go up on GitHub. So this is really an explanation of the entire project so far. I did this just as a recap of last week. If you weren't here last week, this is the stuff you should be seeing now in your project structure. Let's add something new. I need a package manager that takes care of my front end requirements, right? NPM is okay, but there's a better package manager for front end. It's called Yarn. And I want you to download and install it right now. I put a link to it inside of our Slack channel. Here's Yarn. So please go to yarn package.com/en. This is the one right here. And what this is a way of us getting packages from the web, as opposed to us manually going to the website, grabbing the package, downloading it, extracting it, taking it, putting inside of our application somewhere, and hoping that all of us are going to do it the same way. Chances are none of us are going to do it the same way. So what Yarn does is it's a special way of doing it. And if you click on Getting Started, it gives you the ability to install in different ways. I'm going to show you an alternative, which is we're going to be using npm to do it. And hopefully they have that right here. Here it is, npm. So let's do that together. So I'm going to go up on my command prompt. I'm going to clear the screen. And I'm going to put in the command npm install yarn -g for global. Please do that now. And what this is going to do, I'm going to do it too, even though I've already done it. I'm going to do it again. What this is going to do is going to go up on npm, grab the Yarn package manager, and install it in your system globally. The -g switch is the global switch. That means you can use Yarn for any application you want in the future. Are you with me? All right, great. Now that we have Yarn, that's all it took. We have Yarn now. We're going to use Yarn to get different packages from the web. Let's start off. Ready? The first thing is we're going to use Yarn to get easeljs. We're going to say yarn add easeljs, right? -- save. Let's do that together. So yarn add easeljs -- save. So what is this going to do? It's going to go out. If I look at my project structure, right? It grabbed easeljs, put it inside the node modules folder under right here, easeljs. Here it is. It put it in the exact place in my project that every one of you are going to have it, right? Inside node modules. If it didn't work for you, there's two possibilities. One, Yarn's not set up properly on your system. Two, node itself is not set up properly on your system, right? Yes.
This common is including the easel, the project.
Physically, like it'll actually put it in like locally. So it's not like before. Last week, we used easeljs on the web. We pointed to it using the content delivery network. Now we're actually physically downloading it and putting it inside your project. Okay.
So
Look.
Every project I have to give this comment.
No. Well, once we put it in here once, it's a dependency of our project. And then later on, if I download it again, all I have to put in is Yarn. And then Yarn just downloads everything that I want. Okay? We need more. We need not just easel. We need tween, we need sound, and we need preload. Yeah.
Trying to say Yarn is not a recommendation.
Are you using the machine in front of you? That means we have to modify your environment variables. Your environment variables are broken. We'll do that on the break. All right, so let me go back. So Yarn actually created a Yarn lock file. Look here, Yarn lock, right in the bottom of your project. And it basically added in a couple of dependencies, right? Even though it added them all in, I want to keep adding them manually because I want to make sure that it has not just easel in here, but tween, preload, sound, and the other ones, okay? So let's continue. So we're going to say yarn add, right, tween.js, right, -- save. I'm going to do the same thing with yarn add sound.js -- save. Oops, I did it wrong. -- save. I can just do it again. And then yarn add preload.js -- save. Those are the three commands. So I'll bring them down so you can see them. So I did tween, sound, and preload.js. By the way, you could do them all in one line. You can type this. Yarn, I'll even do it again for you so you can see it. You can do it as many times as you want. Yarn add easeljs. You can do it all in one line. Watch. Tween.js. Right? Sound.js. Preload.js. -- save, and that's done. Watch. It'll just grab all of them again. Okay? I just wanted to break it out so it wasn't so crazy for you the first time. So what this does is it just goes and fetches the module and physically installs it inside the node modules folder. So if you look at your project now, inside the node modules folder, if I refresh, you can see that there's easel, preload, sound, and tween. It's inside there. We also have this @types stuff. And last week, we added in an @types. @types was a type definition library that made it easier for us to get code hinting for our libraries, right? I want code hinting for everything I'm doing, right? I want IntelliSense. And the way to do that is to add type definition libraries. So I'm going to use Yarn for that too. Let's do it. So Yarn, I'm going to go clear the screen. And I'll do it all in one line. Ready? Yarn, add @types, easeljs, @types, tween.js, @types, sound.js, @types, preload.js. If I'll do this again in a second. Minus save, minus dev. So what is this? What is this stuff? What it is type definition libraries for each of the modules. So when I start typing a method, then JavaScript or Visual Studio is going to know what I'm asking for, and it'll give me some code hinting saying, "Hey, you need these things, these properties for each of these methods," or you're typing it wrong, you're making a mistake, right? If I press enter, it's going to go grab all those modules and fetch them and install them. So there's the command again. I can just space up so you can see the command. Here's the command. Yarn add @types / easeljs @types tween.js @types. Okay, cool. So now that we've done that, if I take a look at my project, we have the following. If I refresh, I have easeljs, sound.js, preload.js, tween.js. These are all my type definition libraries, plus all of my library files. Great, but does this do anything for my project right now? No. They're just in my project. I have to attach them to my index.html file. So in my index.html, I used this last week. I can't use this anymore because this is my CDN. So I'm going to get rid of it, these two lines. And I'm going to make a new comment, right? So this is my create.js libraries. That's what it is. This is what this section is about. And I'm going to use a script tag that's going to point to node modules / and if you look at the path, it's node modules / easeljs / lib / easeljs.min.js. It's right here. If you actually follow the way it goes, right? So easeljs / lib / easeljs.min.js. Min stands for minified version. So it means it's a big compressed version, so it's more efficient. And that's just for easel. I want to do it for the other one, so I'm just going to copy paste a few times. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste, paste, paste. And now I'm just going to change this from easel to tween, from tween to sound, from sound to preload. Those are all the libraries. Okay, so that's all of the libraries that I need for my project. I'm not going to change this later on. This semester, it's going to be the same, this part. Right? Because these are the libraries I need for to build up my game. I'm going to add to this, but I'm not going to probably take these away. Okay, cool. So I've got this part, and there's going to be an area down here where I'm going to make, it's all for game scripts. So these are all my game scripts down here. Right now I only have one, but I'm going to have two more today. I'm going to have one for label, and I'm going to have one for button. There we good? All right, well, let's test this out, right? Because in my scripts core game.ts file, now we should be able to run this thing and make it work, right? How do I run this thing? Well, there's two things, first of all. Remember, we have to transpile. So when we get ready to work with Create.js, we have to be able to transpile, and there's two ways to do it. I could do it every time, like this. I can go to my command line. As long as I'm in my command line, I just could put in the words TSC, like this, and press enter. There, I transpiled, right? But imagine if I forget. So Alexi and I are working on a project, and he forgets to transpile. And then he's like, Tom, it didn't work. But it did work. You just didn't finish transpiling. So you haven't converted from TypeScript to JavaScript. Man, what a pain in the ass that is. Imagine if you forget one time, you're going to go crazy. Debugging, looking to see why it's not working. Meanwhile, it has nothing to do with you not working. You did everything right. You just forgot to transpile. That's bad. So we can fix that by doing it in here in Visual Studio Code. And the way to start transpiling automatically is if you hit the command Control Shift and B. Control Shift and B in Visual Studio brings up a task, and you can choose either the build task or the watch task. You want to choose the watch task. Choose this one. And what it's going to do is continuously watching everything. And if you want to stop your task, you can use F1. I can search for task. And you want to search for terminate task right here. And terminate task stops your task. You can choose the task you want to terminate, and it stops your task. Let's do it again. Control, Shift, and B. If you're a Mac person, it'll be Command, Shift, and B. I want to choose the watch task. Now, this is only going to work if you have Visual Studio Code, TypeScript installed, and everything else we talked about. Yes? Okay. Well, I'll hit you. Are you have your own machine, or do you have the school machine? I'll come over and talk about it later with you during a break. In fact, maybe we'll take a break soon because some of you are having problems, and then, I want to come and fix as many of them as I can. So that's number one. So one is we want to continuously do this, right? The other thing is, if I was going to try it out, the only way I can try out my project is if I go to my desktop right now. Think about what I have to do. I have to go to my desktop, go into my files, and double-click on my index.html file like this. And then I have this from last week. Ooh, that's really exciting, right? Okay, but if I change something, like it says hello world, and if it says I want to make it say goodbye world, well, then I have to go into my Visual Studio Code. I got to go into my scripts. I'm going to go where it says hello world and change it to goodbye. Goodbye. Save. It automatically transpiles. And then when I come back here, I need to refresh. Woo, that's really too long, right? What if it automatically did it for you? I need some way of synchronizing between my browser and my project all the time. Well, there's a thing to download for that, right? Yeah.
Once you shut down the Visual Code, when you open it again, is this functionality still working?
The task? No.
Yes.
If you close Visual Studio Code and reopen it, like close it, then you have to press Control Shift B again, right? Otherwise, it won't run automatically. You have to make it run.
It's not a kind of step.
It's a task that you run one time as you're working. Okay. Good question. Okay, so good. So I want to make it so it's automatic. So I need another download. Here's the download. Do this for me, guys. npm install. Okay, now this is a new thing, a little server. It's called light-server -G. -G for global. It's going to install a global server so that it runs when you put it into your files and folders. Okay, so npm install light-server -G, please. What this does when you finish installing, okay, is it does this. I can do one of these. I can say, I can just put in light-server and press enter in my files, and it'll automatically run here. Now, you can't see the difference right now. It looks like the last time I did it, but let's just run Visual Studio Code. I'll make it a little bit smaller. So here, take a look here. Goodbye. And I want to make a change. Take a look, take a look. So instead of goodbye, I want to change it to hello. Watch, real time. Hello world. Save it. And all of a sudden, bam. You want that, all right? If you can't do it this way, there's too many things to check. It's too much to your browser. You need to sync it up. You need to transpile your stuff. It's too much. You want to create a workflow that's easy for you when you create your stuff for the web. And this is what we've done here. So please use light-server. And you get that with npm. npm space light-server -g for global. It'll install it globally for you, and it'll work just fine. I think it's a great place to take a break. I can handle some of the people that weren't here last week. We have to talk about those people. We can go to the washroom for some people who need to do that. And I can handle some of the installation problems we had, right? And then we'll go back and start actually coding some new stuff for this week. For now, though, I'm going to put this up on GitHub. I'm going to go here inside my application this time instead of command line. I'm going to hit this little button right here, plus, which is going to add everything to the staging area. I'm going to say something like added create.js support. I'm going to click this little check mark, which is going to do the commit. I'm going to go to my ellipses and go push. Now, this is only available once you've created your Git repository in the first place. If you haven't done this, it won't work. Okay, so let's take a short break. And when we come back, we'll continue with some of the stuff we've been doing.